Climate change affects migration. Today, 1% of the world's population lives in a barely livable red zone. By 2070, that number is expected to go up to 19%. Sure, critics will tell you that people have always moved due to climate changes. Think of the end of the Mayan Empire or the Mongolian Empire's move westward due to heavy rainfall. But experts are really clear. Our planet's temperatures are expected to rise in the next 50 years as much as the last 6,000 years combined. In the next few decades, there is no single issue that will affect people's desire to move as much as climate change.
You've written and spoken a lot about climate change and specifically how climate change affects immigration. Explain to us why that concerns you so much.
Well, there's a whole group of countries around the world that are weak and fragile states. Let's take Senegal, for instance. And these are states that really depend on small-scale farming. So the Senegal today is already at 2 degrees rise average temperature since the Industrial Revolution. 2 degrees rise average temperature. Where have I heard that number? Oh, that's what the Paris Climate Agreement is designed to prevent by 2100. Senegal's already there. They're heading for 4 degrees rise. That will crush a lot of small scale farming, force people to leave the land, move to urban areas, and then ultimately move to other urban areas, try to get into Europe or other big cities in the African continent to find labor, to find work, to find income, to support their families. So there's a direct connection between the two.
What areas of the world are the fault lines where climate change is pushing migrants to leave?
So in our hemisphere, it's Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. These are areas where just stress through population, stress through weak government and the rise of criminal elements, and then climate change are all combining basically to weaken states, hemorrhaging their people. They set out to go north across Mexico, and suddenly you have the crisis we've seen on our border.
A similar story is true within the US. Changes in climate that are increasing droughts, floods, hurricanes, and rising ocean water will inevitably cause massive migrations within our borders. It's estimated that in a little over a century, Miami will go completely underwater.
Houston is one of the biggest urban areas in the country today, greater Houston, and it's very vulnerable to increasing hurricanes and increasing more destructive hurricanes, unleashing the kind of flooding we saw there a couple of years ago.
Climate change affects already poor, mismanaged, and vulnerable areas the most. In regions where opportunities for locals are already scarce, climate change is breaking down any potential for growth.
Well, just think that the lack of opportunities has always been there. What we're seeing with climate change is that traditional systems, like agricultural systems, have broken down. So you find communities that have historically been living in the Amazon. The Amazon is the pantry of the world in terms of biological diversity. And yet what happens with climate change is that a lot of those traditional systems are breaking down because the climate is changing around them.
One of such traditional agricultural systems can be found in the Sierra Gorda, an ecological region north of Mexico City. With a wide variety of ecosystems, the Sierra Gorda has one of the most diverse ecologies in Mexico, with one of the largest numbers of species of plants and animals. The region struggles with extreme poverty, exacerbated by climate change and subsequent migration. The Sierra Gorda Alliance leads a movement of civil society organizations to promote economic development as well as biodiversity conservation. Patti Ruiz Corso co-founded the Alliance 35 years ago and has seen huge migration patterns in recent years.
Around 50,000 Serranos going to United States, yeah, because the lack of those opportunities that we have developed. Yeah, traditional activities, the soils are so poor.
But what about other areas in the world where there are no leaders like you? What should they do to prevent climate change pushing people out of the communities?
Some strategies to replicate our learnings. No, one is to work with the subnational governments. We are working really hard trying to push climate change public politics.
you know, if there's less rainfall than there used to be, you need to think about different crops. You know, as Pati does in her area, there's so many wonderful opportunities, but it all is a changing reality that one needs to evolve with.
Climate change has a huge effect on migration. As hard as it is to predict migratory movements, one thing is clear. As the climate becomes more extreme, people will leave their homes to seek opportunities elsewhere, leading to political tensions and societal change. To learn more about this issue, as well as many other immigration-related topics, follow us on social media, join our newsletter, and join us in the restaurant to stay united at the table. See you guys next month.